Hi, and welcome to the SaVeg podcast.
I'm Rose, also known as Cheap Lazy Vegan on YouTube.
And I'm Daniel, one of your favorite guest stars on Cheap Lazy Vegan's YouTube channel.
We're two friends who love to talk about the latest trending topics.
So get comfortable and join us while we give our SaVeg take on just about everything.
You are currently listening to the previous episode of this podcast, but if you would like to listen to this week's episode and get some exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/thesavagepodcast. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the SaVeg podcast.
Good job, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Very professional.
My name
of
is Daniel, and I'm here with Rose.
Yes, we are together once again, as always.
We are.
So today, Daniel, we have more shout outs.
We do. We have a ton of shout outs. So we have shout outs for our Patreons.
Our lovely patrons. If you want to shout out, join our Patreon page.
Yeah.
You also get, of course, the bonus episodes every month. And of course, all of the episodes earlier than everybody else.
Exactly.
And you get a lovely shout out from us.
Exactly. So
here we go.
Starting our thanks, I'm going to start with Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank
Tiffany.
You. Thank you. Mackenzie.
Katie.
Marissa.
Alicia.
Stefan.
Or Stefan, perhaps.
Yep.
And Molly.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to hear your name, make sure you join us on Patreon as little as $3 a month.
Exactly.
Anyways, so what are we talking about today, Daniel?
What are we talking about today? We are talking about a lot of things.
Are we?
There's some heavy topics. There's some lighter topics.
Let's start with a lighter topic, which I really want to discuss, which is
the Friends reunion.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if you guys don't know, I am pretty much obsessed with Friends.
I would say so, yeah.
Yes, I'm a diehard Friends fanatic.
The most obsessed person that I know, although I did not remember a crucial detail. Yeah, so I'm going to throw a little bit of shade Rose's way because it's my turn for once.
I mean, I am pretty ashamed.
I would be if I were you.
Okay.
Yeah. She forgot Ross's son's name.
I know. It was, when some things that just at the tip of your tongue and I just couldn't. Mm-hmm. I forgot it. Yeah. I for sure forgot it. I mean, now I know it's Ben, okay? Yeah. But at that moment, it was a very shameful moment. It's a shame because when I did go to Friends trivia night at least once. Yeah. I may have gone twice. And we were always like the second, like we were like the runner up or something. And I'm still upset about it. And I also blame it on the fact that Netflix got rid of it. So I haven't really watched it in a while.
True. And the thing is, I don't know about you, like we kind of talked about this the other day. So one big thing in the UK, which I do kind of miss because it was kind of fun, was like they're obsessed with like pub quizzes. Yes. They're like every single local pub has like a pub quiz like at least once a week. And everybody in the UK like gets involved.
They're very into it,
like super into it. Like
it's
super
like a big thing.
Yeah, it's competitive, but you also get prizes and stuff as well, which is kind of awesome. But
do you like them, Daniel?
I do enjoy them, but I am terrible.
That's the thing. I do them, and then I'm like, I literally don't know anything.
Exactly.
And I have nothing to contribute, so I don't really like them.
Well, I find it like challenging too, because I felt like when I was in the UK, at least, because they were like kind of UK centric.
Right.
So when they had like TV shows and stuff, it might not have been something I grew up with in Canada.
True.
But also I feel like weirdly, like I have a lot of random facts and knowledge, but like I just feel like when I'm under pressure, like in a pub quiz situation, for some reason, like my mind just blanks.
Yeah.
Like I might know, like there'll be a question, I'm like 100% know the answer, but for whatever reason, like I just can't.
You gotta be confident, Daniel.
Yeah.
You gotta be confident. No, but my issue with these pub quizzes, quite often, at least from my limited experience with them when I was living in the UK, is that it's all very random. Yeah. Like there's no like for example, if something's like a Friends trivia night, then it's like I know it's going to be about Friends. So obviously if I know something about Friends, then it's going to be an interesting experience for me. Yeah. But quite often when you go to these random pub quizzes, it's like literally the most random shit. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I don't have this random knowledge.
And they always seem to ask, like especially the UK ones, it'd always be like soccer like trivia.
Oh, okay.
Or they'd have like a soccer section where they talked about like
literally
football
would get
players.
0 points.
Yeah, and I was like, no idea who you're talking about. Or like quite often they'd be like athletes and stuff. There'd be like
oh my god, seriously.
I was like, yeah, I cannot contribute to any of this.
Yeah, the only one time I remember this, I'm still proud of because it was such a random moment. It was like the question was, how many years did Nelson Mandela spend in prison? And I just randomly guessed 27 years, and it was correct.
Wow, Rose.
I know. I'm very smart. Anyway.
Did everyone clap and cheer?
pretty much.
Your
Yeah.
whole table where they're like, whoa.
I mean,
and then did you just play it off like you knew it the whole time? Be like, come on, everybody knows Nelson Mandela's been in prison for 27 years.
No, I was basically like, that was the most random guess and I got it right. I don't know where I got it from, but.
Yeah. They are fun though. Like, I just feel like I did enjoy going to them because it's just like more the atmosphere. You know what I mean? You go there with your friends.
It's a fun time.
Yeah.
We should do a pub quiz night.
I hope that, like, are there any in Calgary?
I'm sure I know there's random trivia nights.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we can do something like that.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
And so if they have another Friends one, I will go and I will remember Ross's son's name.
Yeah. Hopefully that will be a question.
But anyways, oh my God, let's talk about so we watched it.
We did, yeah.
And so we watched it together, so we obviously have discussed this already.
Yeah.
But our overall thoughts are that here's what we hated. Let's talk about the negative shit first. Okay, we hated the random celebrity cameos.
It was very strange.
Yes.
Like the thing with like, sorry to cut you off there, Rose, but the thing with the celebrity cameos is like, it would have made sense if it was like celebrities that had actually been in Friends.
Or like had anything to do with the show whatsoever.
But it was like really random. There was like David Beckham in there. There was Justin Bieber. There was, what's her name? Carla Devine or whatever.
Yeah. The fashion show was so cringe. And the cringiest part of all, say it, Daniel. I know you're not allowed to say it because you're part of the LGBTQ community and she is like the queen.
Is she?
She's like the queen of, I mean, other than Britney.
Yeah.
She's like the second queen.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. Thank you for that.
Is she not?
No, you think you're right, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Lady Gaga singing Smelly Cat.
I wanted to die.
I know. It just got so awkward.
Like, she's a great singer. Love her. No, like, you know what? No shade toward her, but it was just so weird.
And it came across really like cringe as well because it was like she joined and it was almost like she was like trying to upstage.
Yes.
Like Lisa Kudrow was singing. And I was like,
I'm like, I would much rather have Lisa singing, Smelly Cat.
Yeah. Like, oh God.
It was just so unnecessary. I felt like the whole thing, again, we're just talking about the negatives at this moment.
Yeah, negatives first.
Yes.
And then we're going to
spin
it to the
whole
positives.
thing, I just felt like they made it too theatrical and they just like try too hard to be like gimmicky and just like maybe they really wanted to put on some kind of entertaining show, but like they really didn't provide much value with the random celebrity cameos. Like the fashion show was just so unnecessary.
Yeah.
And like I would much rather with the fashion show, like why didn't you just dress the actual main characters with the outfits? That would have been so much more fun to see, like, grown up Ross wearing the freaking Sputnik, exactly. Yeah. Instead of like Justin Bieber wearing it. I don't care what Justin Bieber looks like in a Sputnik costume.
I know. So it was really, really, really strange. I don't know. And also like James Corbin doing the...
Oh yeah. Nobody likes him.
I find him like, he's like one of those people, and like maybe I'm going to get some hate for this, but there's like a handful of people where I'm like, I just don't understand how they are...
How they're famous?
Yeah. And like with him, it's like, his jokes, they never seem to land. They're very awkward. Like, I just don't get it. Maybe
how is he famous?
Maybe it's just me. Like, I don't know if I'm the only person that feels this way.
He seems likable enough. Like, I get that part.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't seem like a bad person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never really found him to be particularly entertaining or funny.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I don't really know his history and how he got into like, I mean, he obviously became very famous in America, which is a big, big deal.
I think it was from Carpool Karaoke or something.
Sure. But like, I mean, I guess that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't understand why it was like so popular, that show.
I know, it was.
But he's like kind of like the same as you were saying he was similar to Ellen. Mm-hmm. But another person that comes to mind is, what is that woman? Oh, Rebel Wilson. Do you find her funny? Because I never found her funny.
I did find her funny in Pitch Perfect. It was Rebel Wilson that was in it. When she's in movies, I found her funny.
I mean, like, she always plays the same character though, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Like and what's she gonna do now? Because she like lost a bunch of weight and she always plays the fat chick.
Yeah, she's always.
That's like always the joke, which which also gets old.
It does, yeah.
Anyways.
But yeah, it was a bit strange that he was like presenting it.
Yeah, I mean, who else would you prefer present it? What do you think?
I don't know, like
literally anyone else?
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't horrible. He wasn't the worst part. I think the worst part was random celebrity cameos.
Yeah, and do you really even need somebody to present it? Like, could you not have had them? Like, because I thought some of the best and genuine moments that I really enjoyed was when it was the cast just together.
I know.
Like playing games together. Like, how they were doing the trivia thing.
Like the live interview part was kind of a little bit weird and unnecessary. Like, I almost felt like they could have just sat down and interviewed them, and they could have made it into like a really like in-depth kind of reunion, and it could have been just so good, but it felt very like almost a little bit surface level. A little bit.
Yeah.
So that's our critique.
Yeah, so that's like the negatives.
Any other critiques?
I think that those are the main ones for me as well. I think those are the main kind of negatives. But like there was also some really nice moments as well.
It was just sweet. I think it's just such a nostalgic thing that like you can't hate it because like you know that it's like
I mean, it just like seeing them all together in the room.
Oh my God, I know.
And they were all like getting emotional, and they were like that was a big chunk of their lives. And if you think about it, like they started doing Friends when they were all like in their mid-20s,
mid-20s, yeah, mid
like,
to late 20s.
Exactly. So that like that's like a really pivotal point in people's lives, and they like. And it was,
and they all became famous from that moment.
Exactly.
Like none of them were really super famous.
Yeah. Well, and the casting, I did like the pieces with the casting directors as well. How they talked about it.
I love that. See, I wish they added more of that.
That would have been nice.
And like the in-depth, like insider view, and I know they've done stuff like that before. Like I almost preferred, like shows like that they did aside from this one, like like the in-depth, like behind the scenes, like those ones were really interesting.
I would have loved more like bloopers and more like tidbits of information, like talking about specific like their favorite scenes,
like Ross and Rachel and how they had crushes on each other. That was the most
seeing and then you saw the old footage of them together and
it
stuff,
was
and I'm like,
so cute.
Could they not have shown more behind the scenes old footage? You know what I mean? Like that's the stuff that I love.
But then I guess they wanted to focus on it being a reunion.
Yeah.
But then what does that reunion have to do with Lady Gaga singing Smelly Cat? That's another question.
Well, like, and a reunion is like you're getting those people together, but also isn't part of a reunion to like reminisce of the old times.
That's true.
Because think about it, like a high school reunion is to see all of your old high school friends
and
reminisce about your like memories.
True.
So I just wish, I do wish that there was more, because those are the pieces I really loved when they did like the bloopers or like behind the scenes where you had even like cast and crew like cracking up and like not holding it together, or like
it was so great
when they showed the scene of like one of my favorite scenes where they're bringing that couch up the stairs and they were like talking. They actually talked about it a lot, and they were like, it's so funny because like when we first read that scene, there was like no dialogue, and we're like, how is this gonna actually be funny? And like literally the cast, the crew, everyone was like keeled over when Ross was just like,
I would have been dying.
Pivot! And then he kept doing it like afterwards.
It
and
was
people,
so great.
Yeah, like, oh, I love that part.
Some of my favorites were like when they initially like walked into the made up scene and not the scene, the set.
Yeah.
And it was just so emotional because they were like imagine that, like imagine. Because it's been like how many years, Daniel? 17 years since the last episode.
Yeah.
So if it's been 17 years and they've been working on that set for 10 years, it's like imagine how emotional that would be. Like I would die. Like I think I would be like so fucking emotional.
Exactly. And that is how they all, like all six of them, they were really, when they joined Friends, they were all starting off in their careers.
I know. It's
and
so
like
sweet.
Even the directors, they were, and one thing I thought was cool too is when they were talking about it, like they were like, oh, Rachel was already signed on somewhere, Chandler was already signed on to another show, and they talked about how they got them onto Friends, and like they said also they didn't want one like key famous person. Do you know what I mean?
Which I think was the key.
Yeah. The fact that all six of them were like, but it's just starting in their career. So none of them were like super famous. I would say like maybe Courtney Cox a little bit more because she did the Scream movies and stuff.
But was she in Scream after Friends though? Or was it before Friends?
I think it was like a little bit before because Friends started in like 90.
Or maybe it was during.
Yeah, it was like around that time.
Yeah, because I don't think it was like before Friends, but I could be wrong.
So I think, well, maybe it was a little bit after, you're right. But like none of them were like big names.
Yeah.
And until after obviously that show. And that's like what made it as well. Because there was no one that was like the star, you know?
I know. Oh God, it's so good.
Yeah. And you know what, kind of like it was emotional as well because they talked about like the ending of Friends, and they were talking about how like it naturally came to an end because you have this group of young people living together.
Oh God.
And then as you like get families and everything else, you naturally
that part of your life ends essentially.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. Like, I mean, not that it ends completely, but it changes and shifts as like people start to have babies and, get married. And I mean, fortunately we're very immature. And
I was like, that part of our life hasn't ended yet.
We're
what are you
still
talking about?
in the phase of the 20 somethings.
Yeah. Well, look, we got a few more years because technically they started filming Friends. They were about 25, 26. And then they ended 10 years later. So they're like 36.
How old were they supposed to be is something that I'm wondering.
I think they were supposed to be in their late 20s when they started, right?
No, I don't think so.
Wasn't it supposed to be?
Okay, well, no, some of them were. So Ross was maybe supposed to be 28. So so obviously some of the age is different.
Yeah.
But I can't remember, but like I remember one of the last episodes, some of the last episodes would be their like 30th birthday, but I can't remember which season it was.
Okay.
But yeah, they were probably like, you know, around our age when it ended, essentially.
God damn.
I know. So we have to move on to the next phase of our lives. Getting a house in the burbs.
I am not ready. I'm not ready for that commitment.
Oh my God. Another thing that I loved about the reunion. Since we went on about what we hated, let's talk about some other more things. Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing I loved was like table readings. Like,
oh, that was good.
Phoebe was fucking iconic.
I love. She literally
she
had everyone
sounds exactly the same.
I know. Everyone was like cracking.
Oh
up.
my God, my eyes.
She's so good though.
She's so good. That was. Like, honestly, that scene cracks me up every time.
Yeah. Lisa Kudrow is like...
she's so iconic.
I love her.
Iconic.
I saw this celebrities read mean tweets. I think I was telling you about this, Rose. And there was one of them had like Lisa Kudrow and she was like reading it. And someone, I guess, tweeted her and was like, hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Except for you, Lisa Kudrow. Fuck you. And she like literally is like reading it but like cracking up at the same time. Oh, yeah, I remember.
Oh, she's so sweet.
I just love her. I do love her. I love her.
Anyways... So that was the Friends reunion. It was great. I do wonder how they feel about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do wonder. I'm like, do they even enjoy this, or are they so sick of it by now?
I think that they would. I think they would enjoy to some degree. Like going back to the old set, seeing everyone again. I think that would be
really lovely. Yeah, I think so. And I do wonder what other kind of drama happened behind the scenes. You know, you never know.
There'd always be some, right? Mm-hmm. And they all seem like pretty decently close as well.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, the ladies are for sure. I think the ladies are definitely close. Mm-hmm. I don't know about the guys though. Yeah. And I do wonder if Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer, if they ever actually did anything. They said that they didn't.
You would like to know, wouldn't you, Rose?
Mm-hmm.
God damn.
Do you think they did something?
I don't know, but I think that ship sailed.
I know. Everyone's like upset.
I know. Everyone's like, they're both single now. They should get together.
I mean,
blah,
Daniel,
blah, blah.
You never know, Daniel. He's her lobster.
Moving on, guys.
God, I didn't know you were so cynical. I thought you'd be the first one to be like, oh my God, I hope they get together.
Ross and Rachel. But then you have to remember that they're not their characters.
I know. They're not their character. Yeah, but they liked each other.
Yeah.
In real life.
That's true.
Besides their characters.
And they were so cute when they were like cuddling on couches and stuff.
Oh my God,
together.
they were so cute. But then again, yeah, you're right though. It's been like so many years. Like both of them have been married since, and it's been like so long. So obviously, you know, they're different people. But
it's crazy, yeah.
Oh, they were so cute. I mean, if they get together, I think like the whole world will be so happy.
Yeah, everyone will be like, oh my God.
They should just pretend as a PR stunt.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good. I did it overall, like, I liked it, but I just felt like it could be better.
Who's your favorite friend? Do you have a favorite?
I really like Phoebe.
Yeah.
I don't know, just because she's so quirky and like I just like really like Phoebe. I think she's probably my favorite.
Who do you think you're the most similar to?
None of them. I don't think I don't know.
Maybe Phoebe? Because you're kind of weird.
Probably.
Or no, maybe it would be more like kind of maybe like a cross between Phoebe and Rachel, because you're a little bit like a, you know, like a little ditzy.
Yeah. Well, who do you associate with? Monica?
Control you mean my
freak?
type A personality? Yeah. Excuse me, I'm not a control freak.
I definitely could see that. Yeah,
but I also am not like super clean, so I wouldn't be a Monica fully. I mean, I like to think of myself as a mixture of everybody and all their good traits.
You're all the good traits of everyone.
Exactly.
Right? Actually, you kind of remind me of Janice a little bit.
Oh my God. Oh God, wait. Chandler. Okay.
Chandler Bing.
Oh you're the worst at this.
I know. It's just, yeah. And I love that Janice was there as well. Oh my God.
See, these guest stars, they should have had more of those guest stars.
100%.
Like Rachel's other sister was Christina Applegate. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah, I think so.
Or is it someone else?
No, it's Christina Applegate.
She was iconic. So I would have loved a cameo with her.
She's so good. I love her in Dead to Me. Yeah.
And then like, oh my God, Dead to Me is so good. And then there's so many... Oh, there are people screaming, guys, outside. I do apologize if you can hear that.
You won't be able to hear it because the mics don't pick up the background as loud.
But that was some loud screaming.
That's true.
Anyways, also Bruce Willis would have been fucking iconic.
Like he wasn't also he was
in multiple episodes.
Julia Roberts as well.
Julia Roberts. They probably can't afford Julia Roberts, but still.
Yeah, well, they could afford Justin Bieber apparently.
Well, I think Justin Bieber would be cheaper than Julia Roberts.
True. Yeah.
I mean, Julia Roberts is an A list celebrity. You know. Yeah. Anyways, but still, like, would have loved a cameo. Like, 30 seconds, just do an interview. Would have been iconic.
That would have been so good.
So many other, like, amazing.
Because think of all the people, think of all the guest stars that they had on the show.
There were so many. There were so many.
Like,
such a shame. Oh, they also had Robin Williams at one point as a short cameo.
I don't remember that.
It was part of, like, you know how they have the intro part before you do the main theme song?
Yeah.
And he was part of like one of the intros. He was like in the coffee shop just playing some random guy. It was funny.
Oh God.
Such a shame. But anyways, overall we enjoyed it. I do think there was more to. I wish they did more with it. Yeah. Yeah.
It could have been.
It could have been so epic.
It could have been epic.
But I do think it was a little bit mediocre for what it was. Like, I still enjoyed it because I love Friends and I love the characters and everything.
Yeah.
But it could have been so much better. I think.
No,
but
definitely.
Anyways, so shall we move on to more depressing news?
Yeah, well, I think so. What else? Oh no, I wanted to talk about this story first before we get into the really heavy one.
Oh, okay. So we're going to talk about the less depressing news.
Yes.
And then we'll talk about the really depressing news. So okay, so you want to end on the depressing note as usual. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So guys, this story just keeps getting better and better. So last year, and we talked about this last year, didn't we?
We definitely did.
So, okay, I'm not.
Let's do a recap.
Okay. I'm not a lover of the term Karen, but like,
Yeah, we did complain about the term because I think it's sexist.
But we had the Central Park Karen last year, who was a lady that was taking her dog for a walk in Central Park. And there was a special area. There's special designated areas, I guess, that are not off leash because they have like certain migratory birds that go there or something. Like there's a big thing. So you have to have your dog on a leash in certain areas.
Which is very normal.
Exactly. We have that here.
Most places are not, they are on leash areas.
They'll be like designated off leash areas. So anyway, so she was in this area, didn't have her dog on a leash. And so this guy came over to her, who was a bird watcher, I think, or he's like a really avid, like, and he was like, ma'am, can you please put your dog on a leash? Like, this is not an off leash area. It can really be disturbing to the birds. And she was like, and he started recording her. Because he was a black man, and he was like, oh, like apparently, like, well, in New York, you have to be careful. And he's like, I'm just gonna make sure I get this on video, right?
Right. And well, like we don't know what happened beforehand, right? Yeah. But basically, what he's saying is that he asked her to, put the dog on a leash, and then she was like freaking out over this, and basically was like accusing him of attacking her, which clearly he was not.
She threatened him.
She threatened him to call the cops.
Exactly. She went like this. She basically was like, look, I'm going to call the cops and I'm going to tell them that you're a black man that's been threatening me.
African-American
man that's threatening me. And then
which is so crazy.
I know. So then she calls the cops, and as she's on the phone, she like acts really distressed and is like, oh my God, there's an African-American man. I'm scared for my life. She's
acting like he's about to like kill her.
Yeah, like really crazy.
Was this like before or after George Floyd? Do you know?
Oh, I think it was before.
Yeah, but either way, sure. Like, the fact that she said it's an African-American man that's threatening me, which first of all, he was not, because they were very far away. And he was literally like, can you not come close to me because I don't want to get COVID?
Yeah.
But then like, she's acting like he's like basically about to kill her or something, which is so bad because she knew exactly what she was doing.
The worst thing is like she because of the situation and because we know that there is increased like police like brutality against African Americans. We've seen it time and time again with the George Floyd, all of these incidences, and so she uses that to her advantage and tries to create a situation. Like, thank God the guy had his phone with him.
Oh my God, seriously.
So it's a really bad situation.
Anyway, so that happened, and then this went viral.
Yeah.
And another thing is like she was basically abusing this fucking poor dog that she had.
It was bad.
I don't know what happened to this poor dog, but like throughout the whole video, I couldn't stop looking at this dog.
Yeah, she was like strangling it.
She was basically strangling the dog.
Yeah.
And I was traumatized. It was very hard to watch. Anyways, this video went viral.
Yeah,
and then she ended up getting fired because she was actually quite high up in an investment firm, I guess.
So she worked at Franklin Templeton Investments. She was quite senior. I can't remember what her position was there. But obviously, this does not look good for anyone.
No.
Especially because, like, the firms do not take this lightly. So obviously, they fired her. And clearly, she hasn't learned her lesson, as if she, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You would think at this point, it's like, okay, you've realized you look stupid.
Yes.
Like, you've learned your lesson. But
maybe you did a little bit of introspection,
Well, what has she been doing all of this time that we haven't heard about her? Listen to this. So she has decided to file a lawsuit against her former employer for terminating her employment a day after the viral confrontation. More specifically, her suit accused the investment firm of terminating her based on her race and gender after
shut the front door.
After failing to properly investigate what had happened. So basically she's suing her former employer and saying that they're...
But what is the grounds for her saying that it was based on race? Because she's saying that she got terminated because she was white and a woman?
Partially, yeah. It sounds like...
Let's see. Okay. The lawsuit essentially argues that the company did not thoroughly investigate by interviewing her or Christian... is Christian the guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Or obtaining her full 911 call before terminating her because she is a white woman. What? Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. It adds that even a perfunctory... What's a perfunctory?
No idea.
Perfunctory investigation would have shown she did not shout at him because she was a racist, but because she was alone in the park and frightened to death. Okay, come on. Everyone saw that video.
I know.
Are you joking? And she says, the lawsuit goes on to describe Amy as the next target of Christian, an overzealous bird watcher engaged in Central Park's ongoing feud between bird watchers and dog owners. What? Is there actually an ongoing feud?
I don't know. Oh my God.
It also claims the company's decision to fire her effectively labeled her as a racist with reckless disregard for the destruction of her life in the process.
Yeah. She's requesting a jury trial and is seeking compensation for lost wages, emotional stress, attorney fees, and more.
Insane. So the audacity.
I know. Like, it's different. I feel like it's different when there's a bit more gray area in a situation. But, like, this has been captured on video. And, you know, some people might argue, like, you know, things can be taken out of context, right? They can be like, oh, this was taken out of context, blah, 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 blah. But, like, you see the video.
Yeah.
And, like, there's no, like, you did that was your action that was recorded. So
why was she so frightened?
Exactly. It was during the day. It was like broad daylight.
He was not close to you at all. And he was just asking you to put the dog on the leash. Why is this like a life-threatening thing?
I know. It's just crazy.
And the way to like do the reverse thing of like, oh, my employer was racist when you are the one that was being racist. And even if it was like a non-white woman, but it was like an Asian woman doing this, it probably would have ended up the same way if she said exactly what you said. Like, oh, if I was standing there and randomly this black man just told me to put a leash on my dog, and then I freaked the fuck out and I started calling the police and saying that an African-American man is about to like kill me.
Oh my God. It'd
be the same result. It has nothing to do with her. I mean, maybe because she's not black.
Yeah.
But a black woman wouldn't do that.
Exactly. But I also feel,
right?
I feel like this story again just highlights like, oh, these Karens, honestly.
These Karens.
It just highlights that they're really like, even after their horrible behaviors exposed, the kind of shit that they're doing, and they're still trying to justify and they
think they're the victim though.
Exactly.
She probably legitimately thinks this is a legitimate lawsuit.
Oh yeah. This is where I question. I'm like, where are your friends? Where are your family? Like, are they not? But I guess maybe if she's surrounded by people that are like that, they're also going to be like, you poor thing, you're such a victim, you know?
Exactly.
Whereas like, come on, like if I did that, my friends would call me out so hard and be like, what the hell are you doing? Do you know what I mean? Even my parents would be like, that was really bad behavior. Like,
I know. It's crazy.
God.
Anyway, so that's happening. It's probably going to go nowhere. That's my assumption, but who knows?
You never know.
You never know.
I would be really disappointed if the lawsuit goes through and that she wins, because then I'm like, you still haven't learned your lesson.
Yeah.
Like, and whoever her lawyer is, like, come on.
Yeah.
But I guess they're getting paid, so they'll just take the job.
Yeah, for sure.
They're like, oh, whatever. This crazy
woman,
this crazy bitch,
this
crazy bitch. She be looking for some compensation from her former employer. God damn.
I would be embarrassed.
I know. It's just like, you've already embarrassed yourself.
I know.
And of course,
this is a second embarrassment.
Yeah, you're in the news again. Like,
I know.
Just stop.
I know. Just stay out of the, spotlight for a little bit. Go and just I don't know, do whatever the hell you got to do.
Reflect
maybe
on
change your name.
Yeah.
Maybe move to a different state. That would be great. And just start over, maybe dye your hair. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Just bad.
Well, I wouldn't be in this situation in the first place.
So true. Oh,
anyways.
God.
I also hope the dog was taken away from her. Jesus.
She'd be a crazy woman.
Yeah. I couldn't believe. Couldn't believe.
It's just bad behavior. I just can't. Every time I hear a story about a Karen, it just like enrages me.
I know.
But it's like we all know a Karen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's been so many instances where I'm just like on a like plane or something, and there's just someone there that's just so difficult.
I know.
For no reason, and you're just like, oh my God.
I know. The world does not revolve around you, Karen.
I know. Ugh. Anyway.
All right. Oh God. Now we're gonna move on to the really sad story.
Oh God.
This has been blowing up all over the news, which
like,
I mean it should
huge.
be. So this is a big story in Canada. So basically, I haven't really read into it too much. Haven't had a chance, but I did send this to Daniel because I was like, "Holy mother of Christ!"
Yeah.
So I mean, this is beyond this story, and that's why it's a big deal because it kind of like shows the kind of the gruesome history of Canadian, the way that Canadians have treated Aboriginals here in this country. So would you like to do the honors of reading the headline?
I would. So basically the big story that Rose is talking about is there has been a discovery recently in Canada.
Is it in, oh no, it's not in Calgary. Sorry. No, it was in BC. Kamloops, BC.
Yeah. So it's in BC. So the neighboring province to us, where they discovered the remains of 215 children, found buried near a residential school.
So what is a residential school, Daniel? Would you like to go into the details of that?
I will go into the details because they're horrible. And I can't believe that this happened. Like, but
and it was relatively recently.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Canadian history is not very long.
Yeah.
So it is true when we do talk about racism that like, it's still pretty like recent in our history as well.
100%. And I think the last one closed in like 92 or something. Like it was like the very last one. Like it was quite.
Okay. So what's a residential school?
So basically, so for those of you that aren't from Canada, back in the day, Canada implemented what was known as an Indian residential school system, which was kind of like a network across the country of like kind of boarding schools for Indigenous people. It was funded by the Canadian government and it was administered by Christian churches. So a big part of why these existed, and this happened not just in Canada, but I feel like in a lot of places, but residential schools are specific to Canada, is a lot of places where, and you see this in like Central America and stuff, where there was like Spanish influence, they would like try to push like Christianity and like different religions onto the local people. So this is something that was created. Now, basically, and this is horrible. So the purpose, the school system was created for the purpose of removing Indigenous children from the influence of their own culture and assimilating them into dominant European Canadian culture. And there was like a quote, I can't remember who said this, but basically it was to kill the Indian in the child.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Over the course of the system's more than 100-year existence, around 150,000 individuals were placed in residential schools nationally. And I think at one point there was like a law that like a short period of time where it was like illegal for Aboriginal youth to not go to a residential school.
That's so messed up.
Yeah, like they had to go. Yeah. Like it was part
of this is like part of the reason why a lot of Indigenous cultures and languages are pretty much wiped out, and a lot of kids don't know how to, like a lot of natives don't know how to speak the original languages because of the fact that this existed.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just,
and that was the main purpose. It was to kind of like eradicate that, the true Canadians, that were living on this land.
And also the culture as well. Like they just wanted them to like wipe out that culture.
That's crazy.
And
like, it's crazy. I'm just wondering, like, what is the thought process? I guess it's like them thinking that they're not as good. Or do you think it's because they didn't want them to become strong as a community and then fight back?
I think that's part of it. I think you're right in a sense that individuals that were like settling these lands, they had this the settlers, which I mean it's bullshit. It was already people living here, but anyway, I think that there's this kind of heightened self-importance, whereby because quite often they refer to the local people as savages.
Oh God, so bad.
Yeah, so they quite often were like, these are people that like in their eyes they would come to like, and
they weren't civilized.
Exactly, they weren't civilized. They didn't have culture as the Europeans would know, or like not would know, but
which
like,
is insane.
Yeah,
insane.
But it's just crazy. But like this was the mentality back then, right? It was like
and then they're the ones that went and like killed a bunch of people and did like all of the whatever they call I mean, I would describe that as more savage than anything else. But anyways, okay, so then that's the background of residential schools. And
but a lot of another piece too that I think is important to note is a lot of these residential schools, they were like removing the Aboriginal youth from their families, right? So they brought them
forcibly
to these boarding schools whereby they're like detached. They don't have any family connect. Like they have their family, but like they're not connected to their family. Their family's not around. They're all living in this school. And quite often actually, these schools were like really, really, really poor conditions. Like,
I mean, that's not surprising.
Yeah, too many people living in a small kind of area. And I was reading that like a lot of, because basically in the residential school, there was a lot of shady shit that went down. Like
abuse, all kinds of abuse.
Yeah,
I mean, and then we're going to get into what actually happened, I guess, with the Kamloops school.
Exactly. But like part of it too is like they would like, if kids went missing and stuff, like they wouldn't like necessarily document it properly.
Right.
Or like I was reading one story about this lady that I guess another thing is quite often because of the poor living conditions and like the, everything that was going on at these schools is kids would quite often get sick. Like there'd be a lot of flus and things like that, and that's what a lot of people died from. And I remember I was like, I can't remember what article I was reading, but I was reading about this, and this mom had like requested, because she found out that her son had died at the school, and had requested to have his body brought back.
Oh God.
And they were like refusing to do that because they were like, this is, the government doesn't see the like, justification to spend so much money to bring that body back to you.
Oh
like
my God.
just crazy shit. Like
this is insane.
Yeah. And it was like a lot of it happened behind closed doors. Like nobody was really watching, I feel like, what was going on at residential schools.
Right.
Like it's almost like they were put into this area, kids were sent there to assimilate.
Right.
And the government like funded it, but they didn't like inspect it. They didn't really like, or
and these schools were specifically only for the Aboriginal kids.
That's only who went
which
there.
was also a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you would think that, maybe if they really wanted to assimilate these kids, you'd put them into like, schools with other kids.
Yeah.
But instead they just put them all in one place where you don't have to look at them. So sad, isn't it?
It's just crazy. It's crazy that this was like,
and it's still like, we're still seeing the impact of all of this today. I mean, of course, that's just one of the many things that the government did to like the Aboriginals.
This is part of it. And I think one of the big things to think about like why we do have some of the problems that we do is a big part of it is these residential schools, because, look at like you have multiple generations over 150 years or whatever that have been subject to these horrible conditions, sexual abuse, all of this stuff. And we all know this, especially as like children, if you're exposed to that, like that's going to impact you throughout your life, right? Like yes, some people can like, try to deal with it and stuff, but it's always going to be a part of you. And I think because of that, you have like this minority group that's been subject to all of this abuse over the period of time. And then aligned with that is then you start getting, post-traumatic stress. You have people that have like alcohol problems, substance abuse problems as a result of dealing with some of the stuff that happened to them when they went through the residential system. So that's why, it's just, it's a mess.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge mess. And of course, that's just, again, one of the many things that, the government did to the native population.
Yeah.
This is just one of the many things. So, I guess they've discovered in the last couple of days, I think, maybe yesterday or the day before, huge discovery. Okay, so a gruesome discovery took decades, I guess. And for some survivors, the Kamloops Indian Residential School in Canada, the confirmation that children as young as 3 were buried on school grounds. That is crazy.
Yeah.
So basically, were they killed? Like,
I think a lot of it, like, I do feel like from what I was like reading and hearing about is like quite often like kids would like die at these schools sometimes of like flus and sicknesses, or they would be physically assaulted, abused, this kind of stuff. And then they would just be like kind of secretly buried, and like they wouldn't be given like proper like graves, or they wouldn't tell their families. Like that's why they said like the actual count of how many kids have died in the residential school system, they don't know.
Right.
Because none of this was properly documented. Right. Even the kids that were in the school, half of them weren't properly documented of being there. So
that's crazy.
It's just like insane. And when you have this like population of vulnerable people, and then you have people that are taking advantage of them. And I heard I've heard like horrible things, like just terrible. Like I was reading one article about this, like in general, and it was talking about like one of the things they used to do was like they would like beat these kids until like they threw up, and then they would make them like eat it, and like this crazy shit. Yeah, like insane stuff.
What is That is crazy. How do people do this? Anyways, that's insane. So now, and who knows how many, burial sites there are across. That's crazy.
If it's out of sight, no one is really watching what is going on.
The thing is, like, I knew that these schools existed, but I don't think I knew the extent of the, like, abuse, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I was a bit naive, but I didn't know. And of course, I definitely didn't think that there'd be random burial grounds like this.
I do remember
215 children.
It's insane. I do remember, like, I watched like a documentary like years and years and years ago about residential schools.
Yes.
And a lot of the people, I remember their faces were like blacked out and they were like talking about their experiences there. And that's how I knew, like, I didn't know the full extent, and I think nobody knows the full extent of the atrocities that happen at these schools. But, you can just tell from the people that were there and from the stories that you hear, like, it just was not a good situation.
No, it was not.
So...
And listen to this. The Kamloops Indian Residential School was one of the largest in Canada and operated from the late 19th century to the late 1970s. It was opened and run by the Catholic Church... What a joke.
I know.
Until the federal government took it over in the late 1960s.
And I don't want to like take anything away from this story, but can we just pause for a minute there? And like, this irks me so much because, like, even just that line. So these schools that had tons of sexual abuse, tons of assault, tons of everything was run by the Catholic Church.
I know.
And you have these like super, super religious people that are like, God, we're all God's children, and, peace and love, and, all this stuff. And it's always like, so many of these fucking stories
I know
has to do with religion.
I know.
And that's why,
and again, it's not all religious people, of course, but we're talking about the institution and how, and another just ironic thing is like, just the number of people that think that without religion, you don't have morality. Yeah. I'm like, excuse me, so many. Like, this is just one tiny example.
This is one of many examples. I know there was a huge scandal in the U.S. about priests that were like molesting young boys.
Not in the U.S., all over the world.
Yeah.
This is a well-known fact that Catholic priests molest children. This is a well-known fact.
Yeah.
And they hide it. Yeah. Things are hidden all the time. They get a pass. And that's just, again, one of the many things. I mean, the amount of people that have died, for the sake of religion, not just with Catholic, but like with all these types of religions. It's like, is it really moral?
I know. And it's like, oh, if we didn't have religion, we'd lose our moral compass. It's like, well,
I haven't killed anybody.
Exactly. This shit's not moral.
It's
like,
insane.
What the hell? Like, oh,
it's crazy. And it's also like this whole, it goes into a deeper topic of also these like Western, religions like Catholicism or Christianity that always, and this still happens, like go on these like mission projects and they'll like go to some like developing country where people are like poor and like, they don't have a lot of resources. They don't have a lot of food. And then they like offer them all this like food but then they have to like, they like indoctrinate them.
Yeah.
And that's why so many like, that's so messed up to me. And then they act like they're on some kind of like fucking, like amazing.
Saving the world.
Exactly. I'm like, go fuck yourself.
It's like you're just happen to be advantaged because you are not living in an impoverished area.
Exactly. And you're doing it like you're like dangling food in their face like, oh, you must like it's messed up.
Exactly. It is messed up. And it's like this, just like these types of stories, again, not discrediting, this is like really, really sad what's happened and everything else, but again, like, this was a program, or this particular school that we're talking about right now in Kamloops, it was run by the Catholic Church.
I know, it's crazy.
And yet all of these atrocities were happening there. Like, it's just,
it's crazy. So now it has a museum, I guess. So I guess at least like people can learn about some of the bad things that happened there.
Yeah.
And then it says in 2015, Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission released a report detailing the damaging legacy of the country's residential school system. Thousands of mostly Indigenous children were separated from their families and forced to attend residential schools.
Yeah, imagine.
So sad.
Imagine you just like, you're being ripped from your family when you're really young.
It's crazy.
Put into a school in horrible conditions where you're physically assaulted, abused, and like all this stuff. Can't see your families.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think that they had like, I don't even think that they would like go home on the holidays. Like, they were just always there.
Right.
Like, I don't think it was like a boarding school where it's like visitation rights or anything like that. Like, it sounds horrible.
Right. And then after a few years, you probably can't even communicate with your parents because maybe they speak a different language.
Yeah.
And you've been forced to forget that language, that initial language.
Well, they said like quite often they'd punish the kids if they were speaking in their native tongue.
Oh my God.
In the classroom. Like, they would like beat them and stuff so that they wouldn't use their native language.
Guys, this school closed in 1970s. That's like not that long ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Like so many of these, like I really feel bad for like native populations of so many countries because they're always treated like shit.
Huge.
I feel like the only country where I've heard that like natives actually get treated with respect is like, and I don't know if this is complete, like let me know guys, is like New Zealand.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
Yeah. I don't know if it was always the case though, but maybe not in the beginning. Who
I don't
knows?
think it was in the beginning.
Right.
I think most of the time in the beginning, I think now it's more celebrated though, like the Maori culture there. But I think that
in the beginning it wasn't.
Exactly.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of these, like you have to think like, I just feel like a lot of these places that were settled, again, you had these like European settlers in the most part coming to these countries, and they just viewed these people as lesser than them, right? Like they viewed them as like, we can help them like come to our culture, you know, assimilate with whatever, you know, but then
this is the true white savior complex.
Exactly. So like this is literally
the white, but the problem is they weren't saving anything.
Exactly.
They were killing and pillaging people. Pillaging.
They were pillaging people. Well, you know, it's really sad because, you know, in some areas as well, like I think it's in like a lot in Central and South America, but like
it's so sad.
A lot of the like I don't know if it's Aztecs or Mayans.
Yeah, Mayans.
But basically the Spanish settlers and stuff that were there like tried to wipe out that culture completely.
Yeah.
Like knocking down like temples and all that kind of shit.
Sad.
And it's like, oh my God, like that's really, really, really sad.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah. Colonialism, baby.
It's
gotta love it.
It's just nuts.
I mean, love it so much.
I think this is really, I mean, I'm glad that this story is hitting the news front. Like it's, you know, it's a sad story, but again, it's kind of like, you know, waking people up to like what our history is and what's happened.
I know it's bad. And the thing is, the problem is also like, we're still not a country, like for example, at least in New Zealand, maybe now, you know, the natives there are being celebrated and stuff, but we're still like so far behind that.
Yeah.
Like we're still, you know, like natives are still very heavily, how do I say, like segregated almost.
Yeah.
I know that there's like reparations and stuff or something, or they get like free housing, but it's like also not good for them. And there's like a lot of issues.
Well, there's like, again, I don't fully understand or know, because I'm not like that close with, you know, what goes on that side of the government. But like I heard like also there are like designated like residential areas and reserves and stuff, but again, the conditions on some of these reserves are horrible. Like, you know, not proper facilities, all this kind of stuff. I mean, I know not all of them are like that, but I do think that that's another issue in itself, is living conditions in some of these places. So then that creates a lot of, you know, drug and alcohol problems. So then what happens is a lot of natives like have these issues, like these drug addiction issues and poverty issues and all kinds of stuff. And then the modern society, like, you know, the regular society views them as degenerates. And, you know, like even me, like I've definitely had, you know, like especially when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, why are they such drunks? And like, why are they such druggies? Like, why is that part of their culture? Because I didn't know anything, right? I just thought like, oh, they're just, you know, they're just like low lives or whatever, without recognizing that like all of this other stuff had happened.
Exactly. There's so many other reasons as to why, like, people don't just randomly, you know, if something like that is like a prevalence in a community, it doesn't happen randomly, you know?
Exactly. And also, you know, there are pockets of Canada that are doing some pretty cool stuff though.
Yeah.
So like a couple of years ago, I did a road trip up to Alaska, like through BC and stuff. And I can't remember what some of the towns were called, but some of the smaller like villages
in Alaska,
and stuff.
Daniel.
No. This was in BC.
Oh, but you were traveling through BC to go to Alaska.
Yeah,
okay. I was like, you know, Alaska's not in Canada.
I do know that.
Okay.
I know that you think
it was once though, wasn't it? It's part of Canadian land at one point.
Yeah.
But then we sold it to the United States.
America. Land of the free.
Land of the free.
But no, as we were going through like BC and through the Yukon, there was actually a few like small towns that are trying to bring back the culture.
Right.
So like there was a really cool place that we went to that was like they were teaching the youth there how to like, smoke salmon and make some of the traditional stuff that they would make like with moose hides and all of that kind of stuff, and they were reteaching some of these things to within the community. And I think there's also like a lot of activists now that are trying to like preserve the languages and stuff.
Right.
I think the thing that's hard with a language is like, if it's not spoken widely, then it's so quick, like not quick, but like it's easy for a few generations for it to be gone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like even in like Ireland and stuff, like the native language. Gaelic? What is it? Gaelic. Yeah. Like most people in Ireland just speak English, right?
Yeah. So it is
a bit sad. Yeah.
So,
but I mean that's the sad story coming from Canada. So now it's being talked about a lot in the news, and who knows what's going to happen? Maybe they're gonna find more of these burial sites, which is just so sad.
Yeah. Well, and I think the sad thing is for a lot of these parents where their kids went missing and they never had closure. Like they never, because their kid would be in the system and they would just vanish. Like, you know what I mean? Like they wouldn't necessarily be told, oh, your kid's
and
your
like sometimes
died.
they might still be alive, but then they lose contact.
Maybe, I don't know. I just don't it's just it's a mess and it's really sad, and it does shed light onto why we are in the status that we are in now.
God, how do you fix these years of damage?
That's a $1 million question, Rose.
Yeah, because you can't just like give money. You have to actually like work toward fixing these communities and building these communities,
and building them up, you know what I mean? So, and I think
it's sad.
Yeah, it's a very complex issue.
Anyways,
it's disappointing that it's part of our history here in Canada.
I know, isn't it? Because like we always like the thing is like Canadians, we always pride ourselves on being like more progressive and and
multicultural.
In many ways we are. Yeah. But this is like the kind of dark side of Canadian history. Yeah. That like we don't want to talk about.
Well, interestingly, they have this similar kind of situation over in Australia as well.
Well, that's the funny part because anytime, so how like Canadians and Americans, there's always that kind of like. Little not rivalry, but like also like if you're Canadian, it's kind of like an insult if someone's like, "Are you American?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you're traveling, especially like I know, especially in like the George Bush era, I remember like I would be traveling and I'd see like I would meet Americans and they would have like a Canadian flag on their backpack, and they'd just be like, "Yeah, I just like tell people I'm Canadian." Yeah. Anyways, God damn, it'd be crazy outside. You for sure can hear that, guys.
No, I don't think so. I don't think the mic's going to pick it up.
You have a lot of faith in these mics. Anyways.
They're like noise canceling,
So, but the funny thing is a lot of people did say to me, because I would meet people from New Zealand as well as Australia. Yeah. But every time I would meet someone with that kind of similar accent, I'd be like, "Oh, are you from Australia?" And then they're like, "You're supposed to ask if you're from New Zealand first, because it's an insult if you say you're from Australia." No offense to any of my Australians. But anyway, let's talk about Australia.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know the exact, like I don't know too much of the history of Australia and whether, because I don't know if they had residential schools or stuff or anything there.
I'm sure they had something, similar, some kind of shit like that.
There was definitely some exploitation of the Aboriginal people there, and yeah, it's like similar in a sense that like a lot of the cities that I was in, like the towns and stuff, a lot of the homelessness and people that were on various substances and stuff, a lot of them were the traditional like Aboriginal people.
Yeah, so sad.
So it was really, really sad to see. Yeah. So it seems like they have some similar issues there.
Oh God. And then again, on the surface, because of these issues, it looks like, oh, they're just a bunch of low lifes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the problem. Then it perpetuates that stereotype.
I know.
It's so sad,
Yeah, because you're right. Because if someone didn't know the history, right, and then they came to Canada,
which most people don't.
Exactly. A lot of people don't even know what residential schools are. They're like, my God, this happened in Canada. It's like,
I barely knew about them until like I do remember seeing some kind of documentary a few years ago.
But I think you're right. Like if somebody was from a different country, moved here, had no idea of the history, and then, is going downtown and seeing like, even in Calgary, like, a lot of the people that are homeless and stuff like that are the like Aboriginal people. And they would think that stereotype. They'd say, oh, like, why is it this particular minority group overrepresentative.
They get to live for free. They get to go to school for free. Like that's the kind of argument, right? Yeah. Anyways, it's very complicated.
Yeah. It's a sad part of our history, unfortunately.
It is. But yeah, Australia also has that dark history for sure.
And I just wonder what like, you know, I know that the government and there's activist groups and stuff trying to like come up with a resolution or come up with some kind of.
Well, there's nothing that they can do like to turn back time. That's the unfortunate part, right?
Like this is the thing. You cannot turn back time.
But what do they do?
But it's like exactly. Look into the future and like let's start like really, you know. And I do think that this kind of information should be more prevalent in our education system as well.
Oh my God, there's none of this in our education system.
Like I think it's really messed up. We might have lightly touched on it. But like we didn't go into detail. So I'm like, this should definitely be part of the Canadian
I definitely
education.
didn't learn about residential schools.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And all I learned about was like the European settlers that came here from, you know, France and I'm just like, okay, great. This
and you
is
learned
the most
about
boring
the fur
history
trading
ever.
and stuff,
yeah,
right?
like the fur trade, and they never talk about, you know, all the, you know, horror. I mean, maybe now it's changed.
Yeah.
But like when I was in school, I definitely don't remember learning about all the horrifying things that you know that they did to natives. But
so I think that's a big piece of it as well is better education.
Yes.
Right. So education around these issues.
But then that would require the government to admit that they did shit like this.
That's true.
Not that long ago.
God damn. Well, like I said, I think the last school closed in like 92 or something.
That's insane.
Like that's nuts to me. Like it's just crazy.
Anyway, guys, so that's
on that happy note.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let us know your thoughts. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a little comment, and don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. And of course, if you're listening on any platform, make sure you review, give us a 5-star, all that jazz.
Follow us
on Instagram, and follow us on the podcast platforms.
Yep.
And of course, join us on Patreon.
Check out our Patreon.
Patreon.com/TheSaVeg And that's it.
Beautiful, Rose. You did
Thanks so much, guys.
Fantastic job.
We will talk to you next week.
Thanks so much, guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.